All right, time's moving along, so we're just going to get started here. We have 5 people up here, 4 panelists, so it's going to go perhaps, it's going to go fast. Is this us? Get live or die trying. That's right. Okay, so a little background. We're not sitting in that order, but you can figure out who's who, these amazing folks. As some of you may or may not know, I launched a podcast a few months ago. I think Nestor was the first one on it, called MGA Founders Podcast. And what it's about is just getting beyond the hype and the things that I seem to see everywhere else. And let's just get into the stories of what it's actually like to be a founder and to get one of these things live. The ups, the downs, the mission, and what drives you to do it. As we're doing a panel here, the inspiration here is to do kind of a live version of that, where we talk about what are people's stories and what are you up to? What's the getting live process like for you? And that's going down the line here. Nestor, known for a few years now. He's doing, actually, let's just do one sentence down the line, because you can explain it better than I can. I explain it, you're going to be correcting me, but you've got a really awesome thing that you're doing with a really great mission.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nestor Solari, co-founder and CEO of Sigo Seguros, and we're a mobile-first auto insurance provider focused on immigrant and native Spanish-speaking populations. So going direct to consumer and really focus on people that have been ignored by traditional channels.
Hi, everyone. My name is Preetam, Dutta, co-founder and CEO of Elpha Secure. We're a cyber MGA, but distinct from our competitors, our approach is to embed technology within the insurance language itself. So you're not just getting a cyber insurance policy, you're getting cyber security software, all for one price.
Hey, everybody. Matan, Slagter. I'm CEO of Armadillo. We connect homeowners to service providers, and we cover the cost of any repairs that people need in their homes.
Hey everyone, Tyrre, Burks here. I'm the founder and CEO of Players Health. Our mission at Players Health is to create the safest and most accessible environment possible for an athlete to play the sport that they love. We do that via our risk management and athlete safety platforms, but we also are a brokerage MGA, so super excited to be here.
All right, and Matan, I think we're scheduled. I think you're going to be on the podcast as well, if I recall correctly, and then everyone else, I'd love to have you there. So I think I'll start with, actually, Tyrre, I'd love to start with you. I'm thinking in the order that people actually went live first in, and you're the only one here who was already live when I first met you. So, and you didn't even start in insurance. So, how did you decide to get into insurance, and what was the mission of your insurance offering?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think didn't come from the insurance background. I've been an athlete my whole life, and so everything we do is around supporting sports organizations, mostly youth sports organizations, around how do we create safer environments. So we started as a risk management company. We track injuries. We support organizations with managing abuse incidents within the sports organization. So anything that revolves around keeping athletes safe, that's what we started with. About 3 years into the business, we started to see that we collect a meaningful amount of data around how organizations are managing risk on a day-to-day basis. And we realized that we can use that data to better underwrite and price risk in this space. It's a niche, but it's a massive niche. You know, youth and amateur sports does about $8 billion of premium every year. We thought that we can have a better solution to better underwrite and price and support these organizations with creating that safer environment.
Great. And what were some of the surprises and challenges that were non-obvious that came up along the way to getting live?
Well, we knew nothing about insurance when we first started, and so I think we focused on simplifying what can be a really daunting task to get an MGA live. One of the things we decided to do is not go straight into technology and building out a platform. We went manual first. And so yes, that brought some limitations. We didn't go after small policies. We focused on large premium. Average premium is about $100,000, and we focused on whale hunting in the beginning so that we can write master policies and get to live. We wrote about $6 million of premium, just manual, not having a platform in place. And then that helped us get a better understanding around how we would digitize the process, how we would build more efficiencies within it. And then when we connected with you guys, it allowed us to be able to move a lot faster.
Okay, awesome, and that's been fantastic. And then Nestor, come around to you. I think you're the second one here to meet me and to go live. Tell us about the process. How long did it take you to go live, and what were some of the what was the biggest unexpected challenge?
Well, biggest unexpected challenge. Well, let me start from the beginning. Also not an insurance guy, vibing a lot with the story until the whale hunting part. Our average premium $600, but we were doing everything manual for a while. Did about $250,000 in premiums, and then decided, hey, we need to launch our own product. And luckily, we came across Socotra. I mean, not to blow smoke, but one of our early wins. I think we decided to launch in late December. We had an engineering team of 4, my co-founder, and 3 offshore engineers. And we sold our first policy 6 months later. Maybe 6.5 months later. I think, look, there was a lot. Building insurance technology is a lot harder than I expected it to be. There's a lot of things, a lot of ins and outs, a lot of data collection, a lot of different formats, and a lot of different sources. I think that's something I didn't expect. And I think, fortunately, a lot of the stuff the Socotra team had already thought about because it helped us out with the implementation.
Awesome. And then one thing I remember about you guys is, I mean, you had that push to get live, but getting live wasn't the end of it. You're like the kings of iteration, from what I hear.
Yeah. No, look, and I mean, we had to be. We had to be scrappy. We had to get out there and build our traction. I mean, me and Julio, my co-founder, we started with 4 questions on a WordPress form and dialing out and selling insurance that way. And from there, that's how we started automating, building out our own front end, then building out our own quoting engine, connecting with Socotra. We launched before we had payments or signatures, documents automated. And so we were going live and doing as much manual as we could along the way. So yeah, definitely not and still not the end of it. I mean, obviously continuous process. You guys keep adding services. We keep on building on top of it. So I think there's a lot more to do still.
Yeah, awesome. And maybe someone will have a question about some of the things going there. Preetam, you guys set a land speed record for building your system. I think we gave you an award. It was like, what, 6 weeks or something like that? How did you do that? I've never heard the story. Yeah. What did you do?
Well, no, I mean, first and foremost, it was the Socotra documentation. It was actually very helpful for.
It's not supposed to be an ad, but I don't mind.
This is not an ad at all. I'm being honest. Like the open API documentation, if you haven't seen it, it is the best in class in the insurance industry, period. I'm not just saying that. And I'm a technologist myself. I would not give such high praise unless I actually believed it. Socotra is an excellent platform and enabled us to build our cyber MGA product really quickly. The other part of this, which we got our product live within 6 weeks, however, we didn't go to market for 6 months thereafter. That's a different story. But the API documentation really enabled us to build the product really quickly. The team is excellent. Whenever we ran into bugs, we didn't try to bang our heads against the wall. We just asked somebody at the Socotra team, and they were really quick to respond.
Yeah, but okay. But let's get beyond. I mean, just obviously, I love tech. I'll talk that all day long. But but full scope. Like, what were some of the other challenges, or as far as you can say, getting the system together wasn't the only step to going live, and certainly wasn't the long pole in the tent. What can you share that you learned?
Yeah, the biggest challenge, similar to many of the other panelists here, I'm not an insurance-first guy, technologist like I mentioned, so insurance was a new world to me. And the hardest part about us actually going live was securing insurance capacity. And in cybersecurity, I think we can all see the headlines every single day. There is a new headline every day that says, this person got ransomed, this person lost X amount of data. That scares insurance carriers, which are fundamentally risk averse. And so it was really about proving the efficacy of our technology through pilots, through studies, to really give them the comfort to insurance providers that we could actually write profitable business. And that's the thing that took a lot of time for us. And we were very fortunate along the way to have tremendous partners. On our panel for insurance, we have Axis Capital and Everest, and they've been truly exceptional to help learn with us and figure out the cyber landscape with us.
All right, so we have 3 folks who are completely new to insurance. Will it be all 4? I don't think so. When I met this man, he was at AIG, and then tell us about your journey from AIG to Armadillo, and where you're at. We still have one in the process of getting live here, so with all of you at the same stage that are getting live.
So I started my career as an actuary, and AIG was a great platform for me. I got to do a lot of different things. I didn't want to stay and do one thing. And one of my latest roles at AIG was head of market disruption for the consumer lines of business. And during that stint, I got to meet Tyrre and partnered with AIG and see a few other people here in the crowd who I know back from that day, including Dan. AIG acquired a company called Servicenet back in 2012. It was the warranty business, and I just fell in love with that business. It was an entrepreneurial shop. It's out of Louisville, Kentucky, away from the home office. I got to know them, and I just fell in love with it, the difference between a corporate world and more of an entrepreneurial, make decisions quickly, get to market, focus on real commercial things. Not that AIG doesn't, but just be hyper-focused and move quickly. I was introduced to one of the founders of Servicenet that sold the company to AIG, and we hit it off, and we looked at the home warranty space, and I felt confident that if I left AIG, we could very quickly get the capacity from carriers that we know. We knew the right people, so we were insiders. We came into it. We knew we were building a program, and we had to be profitable from day one. We have to have a good actuarial argument to the carriers to show them it's going to be a profitable, low loss ratio business. So my journey was jumping off from a very comfortable job. I have 2 kids, a dog, a house, a mortgage, where I was, I got paid pretty nicely, and jumping off, it was a big decision. But one thing that we didn't address, we are looking at Socotra right now, and we decided to outsource our technology development from day one, because I didn't have a technical co-founder or anything like that. And now we have to deal with that and cleaning that up.
How'd it go? Actually, let me ask about that in terms of outsourcing technology. How many folks here do all your tech dev in-house versus work with for the systems integration part? Obviously, you buy things off the shelf, but
we do it in-house.
In-house.
Other than my co-founder, all our engineers are offshore.
Offshore. Employed by you, or is it
contract.
Contract?
Yeah, fully in-house.
Fully in-house.
Contract.
Contract?
We do have contractors, but
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. Well, from here also, I'm happy to take questions. I'll do the next one, toss one out there, but if you catch my eye with a hand, we can do that. This is, we've got 5 COs on a stage, and we're here for your questions for the next 20 minutes or so. So first thing I'm thinking is, you have so many things come together to get going with this. You've got to have team, product, capacity, technology, and funding. Well, and paper. I kind of put that with capacity, but you need 5.5 things. So that partially overlaps. When you're just getting started, that's like just a mountain of stuff. Like, what do you go to first? I'm going to guess probably team, but maybe product vision. Like, where do you start?
I'm lucky I didn't know all of that when I started.
Okay,
Else I might not
you start
have.
with ignorance.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
you'd be too smart to do it.
You start with kind of that feeling in your gut. I mean, for us, it was finding team. I think that was a big thing. Once we brought on a colleague, a partner that knew insurance, I think that got us from being a broker, selling insurance, knowing our customer, to launching our product.
And how big of a team did you need before you started thinking about the other 4 things? Was it 2 people, 3?
I started thinking about the other 4 things after the interview with that guy when he told me how to think about those other 4 things. Immediately. I mean, look, like you were describing, it's 5-6 balls up in the air constantly. I think one of the other things that was surprisingly helpful early on was getting the right reinsurance broker. And so getting the right reinsurance brokers has opened up a lot of doors for us, and we bounced around with a couple. And so I think that's something I'd recommend a conversation starting early if you're going to launch an MGA.
Yeah, definitely go through a broker.
I mean, I guess it depends on the product. For us, as a new insurance team, going into auto, it made a lot of sense. I mean, maybe with a new product, maybe something that's excess surplus, something that's not admitted, maybe it's a little different. But as far as I hear, it seems like the right way, the most direct way is going through a broker, especially if you don't have those relationships. I know there's a couple platforms. I think one is called Steer that's starting to try to do some of that stuff as well.
Yeah, they're great folks.
Agreed.
Try to pronounce the first name of the founder because I always say it wrong. Duran. It looks like Dogan, but great guy. Anyone else? How'd you think about that?
I think for us in the beginning, we had to figure out who we were going to be and how we were going to participate within the insurance value chain. When we started as a risk management company, we didn't know if we were going to be a broker. We didn't know what it meant to be an MGA and what that all entailed. And then raising capacity was me being an athlete, going in saying that I care about kids and we're going to keep them safe. It's going to be a hard lift in terms of bringing in the kind of capacity we needed. We brought in our president, Naveen Anand. in 3.5 years, I raised $5 million of insurance capacity. He was in our company for like 2 weeks and raised $500 million. And I was like, okay, well, you need the right team to make that happen. So I think once we figured out who we were going to be, how we were going to go to market, then that allowed us to really focus on how we were going to build in the pieces, the capacity, and the compliance and everything else we were going to do.
Do you think it creates like a chicken and egg problem then? Because to track you got to have traction. You can't just like attract someone like that right out of the gate.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we started to grow our brokerage was a really good launching point for us. Our value proposition was that everything that you get from a risk management perspective, you get it as a part of your total cost of insurance. And our company skyrocketed. We went from 300 and some sports organizations to, a few thousand in a year during COVID. And the insurance landscape in our space changed during COVID because premium volumes were low because kids weren't playing sports, but claims were still happening. So there was a heightened need for risk management, which gave us kind of the launching pad for our brokers to go, which allowed us to show that we can put premium on the books. And now it's really around underwriting, and we use our data to better understand that.
Good. And sports are back.
Exactly. And back ever.
Awesome.
Yeah, the only point I would make is of the things you listed, Dan, like the last thing I would say is prioritize raising capital. I think you first want to figure out where you fit in the ecosystem, what makes you different, what makes your company actually stand out in this crowded universe. Like there are a lot of cyber MGAs out there. There are a lot of every type of MGA out there. What makes your company special and building the right team? So I don't know if I can tell you what we did first because we were trying to do it all at once. And it's like that juggling game where you just drop all the balls at times, but then you try to pick them up really quickly. But the last thing we focused on was capital. Capital, I think, is a byproduct of the work that you put in, building the right team. You get investors who come knocking on your door. We were very fortunate that we've never actually gone and raised capital. We've been very fortunate to get inbound requests because of the team that we assembled or the product and the differentiation. I think those are the things that help you stand out as a company instead of desperately trying to raise capital first and then building a company. I think it's company first, capital second.
The only thing I would add is we could have juggled we're juggling a lot, but just focusing on one thing. And for us, it was getting a really good product to market. We knew what we were attacking, which was home warranty, getting a really good product to market as soon as possible so we can start seeing what distribution methods work. And then as a result of that, we have some new partners. I see one of them over there on the capital side. But yeah, it was ruthless prioritization.
All right, great. And then again, for questions, flash an arm, but I've got plenty more here. So let me ask this. In the process of going live, or even at any point, what was the biggest shift that you had to make? And what I mean is like, the product I think is going to be like this. Oh, I need to change, it needs to be like this. I thought my distribution was going to look like this, but it has to be like this. What was a shift you had to make? And tell us about the process.
I'll say one thing. This is a personal shift because I came from AIG. And I was at AIG for 10 years. Every decision at AIG had to go through 10 different departments. So when I would bring a case in, especially a new startup, or Players Health back then knew, we would have to align everybody. And with Tyrre, it worked out. We aligned everybody. Everybody said yes. It was good. But that was a 1 out of 100 batting rate. So when I all of a sudden I have my own business, one of our first decisions was how do we create a brand, and we got a really great agency. And I remember my co-founder telling me, forget about that AIG stuff. You like those guys, just sign the papers and keep going. To me, it was a mind shift. It wasn't a pivot. I think you're talking about pivots here, but it was a mind shift of just
whole pivot. Yeah. Your mission is your mission,
right.
But it changes color sometimes or shape or, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I expect that will happen at Armadillo, but for me, the mind shift was moving from analyze the heck out of a decision to just make a decision, just make sure it's not going to take you down, and run.
I'd say as a startup cyber MGA, we spent a lot of time in thinking about what we're going to do. There was a lot of build up to that moment where we finally went live in March, and it was everyone was very happy. But as soon as you go live, you get the feedback from brokers, wholesalers, everyone telling you, hey, could you do this? Could you zip the files in this particular way? And I think the biggest thing you learn as a startup is you've got to be agile. The reason people are coming to a company that is not the incumbent is because you're doing something fundamentally different. And in order for you to be different in insurance, that means to move fast. And in order to move fast, you need to give people what they want when they want it, and that's what really separates us and helps us win more retailers and brokers who want to be on our platform.
One thing I would add, I think preparing for success, I think, is really important when we're dealing with this, in that every policy we sell, which we're selling, hundreds a month, it's almost like if you don't have the back infrastructure and the statutory reporting and finance in place, you can almost be selling yourselves into a bigger hole in terms of going back and reconciling. That is one of the biggest fundamental, I think, shifts that we're making, is that we have to make sure that the back office is in place. Yeah, our focus was really distribution. Let's get out and sell, let's make money. And then when that starts to happen really well, and not having the back office in place, that could ultimately take you down as well, especially from a regulatory perspective. So just planning for success, of course not analysis paralysis in terms of having that back office in place, but make sure that as you start to see any incremental changes or improvements and you start to see that scale, that you're ready to make sure that you button things up.
You mentioned analysis paralysis. I feel like we suffered from the exact opposite, kind of bulls in China shops. I mean, you want to hear mindset shifts. We started trying to sell minimum limits non-standard auto insurance over the phone in Pennsylvania, which for a whole host of reasons, we went zero for literally 1,000 to 1,500 phone calls. Over a year, dialing out and figuring out what are we doing wrong, because I had no idea what I was doing in insurance when I got started 4 or 5 years ago now, 4.5. And so from there, realizing, all right, this isn't just about selling any type of auto insurance to customers, figuring out, okay, where is our customers? What are the carriers that we need to get appointed with? And then, so I think that was one of the big shifts, kind of from just like getting licensed and trying to sell Travelers and MetLife unbundled auto insurance to people over the phone, versus then launching our brokerage in California and Texas, scaling that a bit. And then clear before and after point for me was shout out to Kyle Nakatsuji from ClearCover. He's the one that put Socotra on our radar, honestly.
Yep.
We had done a whole analysis. We had 20 plus policy admin systems that we were looking at. Ooh. And
I didn't know there were that many. I've done my competitive research.
Yeah. I mean, in the non-standard auto space, a bunch of them are popping up, have popped up. But yeah, no, I mean that call was the call that kind of convinced me to move forward on the MGA, and then also opened up a bunch of doors like Socotra.
Wow. Well, with that, we're actually already coming down to our last question. Before I do that, anyone starting MGAs, so forth, like, talk to these folks. They're friendly. They're awesome. I know all of them. They're around here. Obviously, I'm happy to talk to folks about tech and their MGAs and so forth. And the last question I'm going to have, which you kind of inspired, talking about iteration and so forth after going live, there's got to be a tension between, you could delay going live and have more stuff, but while you're not live, you're not gathering critical data. But going live early, suddenly everything's on fire, and you're doing it live. It's climbing without a rope at that point. How do you deal with that tension? What's your best advice for dealing with that tension and making those hard decisions?
Trusted advisors. I think it's getting, I know I've said the word partners like 10 times in this talk, right? On the policy admin side, we had Socotra. We didn't have to think about how that works anymore. So getting partners you can trust that will just do the job that they need to do for you, that's first and foremost. And just getting a trusted group of advisors and people. Honestly, my co-founder is, I say oftentimes, hearing more about my daily struggles than about the company, because you get someone who is a sounding board for you and helps you think through ideas. That's going to help you skyrocket, because if you don't talk about issues the second they arise, and having someone to vent to, you're never going to be able to work through the problems that help a company succeed.
Yeah, I mean, if I had hair, it would have been on fire for the last 4 years. I mean, that's how we've been operating. I mean, exactly. Like, trying to sell insurance over the phone and failing was how we learned what insurance we had to sell. Going to market and kind of taking calculated risks, right? I think startups, obviously, you talk about the Facebook move fast and break things. You can't really break things in insurance, so you got to know, all right, what are the big open risks, right? You don't want to go to market and forget some important statutory reporting, get fined, and then get put out of business, right? And so I think being very intentional about what open risks you have and what you take is of utmost importance.
I think for us, I think it's really just jumping and recognize, just don't be afraid to call your baby ugly. It's going to be ugly in the beginning. And
If you don't, investors will. So
Exactly.
don't worry
So
about it.
just be very introspective and go, we know our focus was general liability. That was the policy that organizations needed to have a season. That's the first policy. That's the only policy we're going to go live with. We're going to sell the hell out of that, and then we can get innovative as we go. So just be okay with starting with just that MVP. It's going to be ugly, recognize it, but constantly look in the mirror and figure out what you need to do to change, and change it quickly.
100%. We just jumped. We knew things were going to be on fire, and there are certain things that we not only knew would be on fire, we knew we would have to do manually, and that was okay. And for us, it was a necessary. It just had to happen for us to just get into market. So.
Awesome. With that, I think we are at time. Do check out MGA Founders Podcast for just stories like these, where we go a little bit deeper and talk about exactly these things, and often a lot of fun things as well. With that, I think it is time.